Dear friends of the German YMCA attending this leadership conference, it's a great pleasure to be with you. I really wish that I could be speaking to you directly, but due to my busy schedule, I have to go before the time allocated to me for this presentation. So I'm grateful to the leadership of the German YMCA and the leaders of the conference to give me the opportunity to record this video, which will be presented to you. I think you have this opportunity to meet me during the conference, and then some of you will have good exchanges. And what is required from me today is to share some experience of my leadership journey. I want to start first to my greetings to all of you, to the leadership, for this great opportunity, because our world needs a new generation of leaders. And I think this conference is going to help all of us to develop this new generation of leaders that the world needs. And I bring you greetings from World YMCA. My president, Sohela Hayek, and all the leaders of the World YMCA and my colleague from Geneva, greetings to you. And I've enjoyed the time I spent with you, and I hope you will find some good learning when you go back home after this conference. So what else can I share about leadership journey than to tell you my personal story? Thinking about this, there are 4 important moments that came to mind that I could speak about. The first one is how I started. And in all the questions people ask me, how did you know you were a leader? I came from a cultural background where you don't decide to be the leader. Someone invites you to play that role. And generally it's a group of people. In some places it's a council of elders. And people who look at you and to say, okay, based on your history, your family, where you come from, you can play that role. Mine did not happen like that. It happened one day we were at the youth camp when the leader of the group at that moment was to travel abroad. Then he gathered the group and then he said, Carlos, you're going to be the leader of the camp. And this is what you need to do. I was among the youngest, not having this experience of leading a camp of 100 young people. I was so surprised to receive this call. But they say, you will do it. And the group will going to support you. And at the end of that experience, I realized that there is something about me that I was not aware of, but someone else saw it. So for me, the leadership starts from the appeal, the call, or an invitation. I know that in many places, people have the aspiration and they work for it. Whatever worked for you, mine was an appeal. And throughout my leadership journey, this appeal was renewed. Time to time, I'll get that, again, I'm called to go to another level and called to another level. And because it does not come from me, and I think it's an appeal, when I face difficulty, I remember that it does not come from me. So I'll go back to the first phase of my leadership journey through this appeal. So when I was called, when I saw that I have that calling, my first part was to be mindful of the aspiration of the people. There was an expectation of me to lead the camp. And later on, we did many other camps. So that's the aspiration. People want to go to the camp for. So I need to be aware of that aspiration. It's not about my own view, my own will, but I have to be mindful for this aspiration. And that was my first phase. Listen, in my case, listen to what God wants me to do. And then the second is what He wants me to do with the people that was placed under my responsibility. That was so important, to be driven by the aspiration of the people you are called to serve. Because for me, leadership at that moment It's about service. For me, there is no leadership without service. I was called to serve, and my service needs to go according to the aspiration of the people. And I spent this time in my YMCA in Togo for almost 10 years, and this was going up and down. The next phase of my leadership, where I could say is very distinct, is that I moved from my YMCA, the Togo YMCA, and I came to Geneva the first time in 2000 as a program secretary. Again, someone saw in me something I was not aware of. When I came to Geneva, the Secretary General then gave me a portfolio to say, you will manage the finance and administration. How can I manage the finance of the world movement? I was not trained for that. I said, no, we did on test. You did physics, you could do it. There is an accountant. This is your role, you need to do it. That puts huge responsibility on me. But again, this calling, I believe that God used a human being to call me for that position. I have to do it. But in that position, there is something else that drove my ability to lead or to serve. And because in that position, I was not number one. Even in Togo YMCA, I was not number one. And I have to lead from where I am. So leaders is not necessarily being in number one position. But in this phase 2 of my journey, what drove me is about trust and resilience. Trust that the one who helped me until that moment of my leadership will continue to be with me. Trust that the system that allowed me to be in that position will provide so that I can continue to thrive. But trust alone will not do the work, because I have to grow a tough skin. So many people were so critical. How can this guy coming from Africa will be managing the finances? There are many other things. You know, Africans are not good with money. How can you give that responsibility to an African? Or he's too young and he doesn't speak English. You know? So there's a lot of doubt on me. So I have to say, I need to prove to those people that it's not right what they are thinking. So I need to be resilient. Resilience means resistance to pressure, but going beyond this resistance to be resilient to make sure that things happen. So I kept that position for 8 years at the World YMCA, went through different things. And the same people who were doubtful were coming to say, oh, that's something is extraordinary. And people noticed that, okay, things are happening. I did nothing, but I just stand from those principles to trust that God is the one who put me there, and using the people, that the structure is this YMCA we all love, will not allow that people, their doubt will overcome my aspiration. Then the third part of my journey was when I moved to Africa Alliance as the General Secretary of the Africa Alliance. Again, there was a calling. There was a calling for me because I have to think carefully, is it what I need to do? It's so important. If your conviction as a leader is not clear, the first time you'll face challenges, you could completely abandon the cause. So it's very important that we align with the calling, this leadership calling. So I went to the Africa Alliance because the movement came to me and to say, what you did at the World YMCA, we are very proud, but this is time for you to come back home and to use the same things because Africa needs you. The third phase of my leadership journey was when I moved to the Africa Alliance. And I was again called. Leaders spoke to me and to say, Carlos, we observed you, we saw what you did at the World YMCA. We'd like you to come back home and to serve the continent. Of course, it was not easy. I have to convince myself, but I went through a long process. Finally, I went through the process and I was selected. Again, what is the driving force? I was called for a specific role. They say, you come and do something for the continent. That implies bold leadership, taking more risk, and connecting to the aspiration again of the people who put their trust on me. So for 10 years, I was in this African Alliance role, and we defined what was missing to connect to one vision, to say, okay, the renaissance of the continent, because the deep inside us, we believe that God wants Africa to be different. Something different needs to come from Africa. And people were doubtful. Can something new come from Africa? We say yes. So I have to put myself in that shoes to say, let's drive this continent, the YMCA of this continent, to discover who they really are and how they can move. And we came with a clear direction to say we are a Christian organization, a ecumenical organization, we are a youth-driven organization. So many things in the world now that we are talking about youth empowerment come through that moment. And then we are African. We are African. This identity of the movement is African, something typically African. So for 10 years that drove. So this is how we define the subject to citizen program, the African Renaissance program, the transformative masculinity program. All those came through that phase of leadership. Well, because it's the phase and to be bold and to be visionary and to do it. So from my humble beginning at the Togo YMCA, when I was going step by step to the YMCA, so I came to the level where I think I'm growing to my leadership journey to be bold and visionary. And then that phase ended when I entered the last phase I'm in currently, which is the World YMCA, being the Secretary General of the World YMCA. And I will say clearly, it was never in my dream to become a Secretary General of the World YMCA. It's just a combination of things. But when you get to this position, how do you lead? How do you lead? And it took time to discover. But today, because of this conference, I have time to think about it, to say, what, because I'm still in, I cannot say it is, but what are the trends, what are the characteristics? I set for myself 3 key values that's going to drive my being Secretary General. This is dignity, equity, and compassion. These are universal values that speaks to everyone. Dignity. My Christian faith talk about dignity to be preserved. Equity, that's what I learned through Jesus Christ, is always equitable leaders. And compassion is about feeling the pain of the people around us, feeling what they are going through. And to put all those together, I want to be as collaborative as possible. Not deciding for people, but creating the space for them to decide. But what drives me day by day is the compassion part, but the way I express it is about listening. And that's a promise I made to the movement, to listen. To listen, not just to hear, but to listen is to connect with where the people are, to connect with where they are coming from, and to put myself in their shoes, to understand, and to be able to translate it. Sometimes you need to decode it. People will tell you something, but it's not exactly what they're telling you. You need to go beyond that to be able to say. Sometimes I get it, sometimes I don't, because I'm human. But that capacity to listen is part of my current leadership journey. Listen at the deeper level so that I am equitable, so that I apply the dignity, I preserve the dignity of the individual, of the group. So these are my leadership journey so far. To make sure that I'm called, it's not my own agenda. I need to apply the agenda, the aspiration of the people. I have to grow some tough skin, but I need to trust. And time I need to be bold and build about the unity. And now to listen, to be compassionate, to strive for equity, and also preserve the dignity of the people. And that's my journey, and I'm sure your journey are similar or more. I hope we will exchange to make sure that we can learn from each other. From some questions have been asked during this conference, I would like just to highlight 2 points quickly. It's about where are we as a movement? Are we growing? What is the status of the movement? I define the growth, it could be in numbers. In numbers, we are not growing, but the impact, we are growing. Through COVID, many YMCA were to merge. So we have smaller group of YMCA, and then we are not expanding. But in terms of our reach, we are growing because through the digital, YMCA are reaching more people than before. And because of the impact, our impact are going deeper. So the growth that I can say in the YMCA is the growth in impact, in the growth of the reach, on what we reach, but it's not in growth of the number of YMCA. And this is something we need to continue to speak about to see how we can grow there. How are we moving in the world that is becoming more and more secular? Is the second topic. That's the second question that people ask me. We are in this journey of defining what does it mean today to be a Christian movement. Are we a really Christian movement when we are so diverse? What it is? And we have this conversation going on, and we are very clear from the onset that there is no question about the Christian root of the YMCA. The YMCA is remain a Christian organization. However, we are so diverse that not everybody identifies itself with that Christian root. How do we handle that? How do we handle that diversity? We have diversity from Christian to non-Christian, from Catholic to secular. How do we handle that? This is a journey we are on. I don't have the answer. I don't have the solution. All I want to tell you is to say no one is questioning the Christian root of the organization. We remain Christian. And because we are Christian, we embrace other people. And because we are Christian, we are open to different expression. Because we are Christian, we need to preserve each other's dignity. And that's the message I want to share with you. But the conversation will continue, and we will be kept informed as we journey. And if I have one expression, one expectation from the German YMCA, and because we are solidly rooted in the Christian tradition, let's share the diversity, how you live this Christian diversity. I hear that you are talking about the new expression of Christianity, or the fresh expression of Christianity. This is something you can share with the world movement. And I'm looking forward to hear what are the outcome of this conference. And I'm being so pleased to be part of this and to be associate. And Hans Herg and all the leaders, thank you for inviting me. And thank you for the warm welcome. And God bless you, and I thank you.